Hi everybody, my name is Shazar. I'm going to talk about chainmail inlays, how to make them using a program called IGP. Here are some examples of things I've done in the past. So an inlay is normally ornamentation in a material using another material. So we got two different types of wood. This lighter colored wood, probably maple, has been inlaid into the darker stuff to make ornamentation. You can't do that with chainmail using a different material. Well, you can, but it ends up being a different color. Works really good with anodized aluminum. I tend to do a lot of mine black and white as well. We're going to focus on black and white today because it's easier, and I think it's important to grasp the basics first. So, right. Zlosk is an old school chainmailer way back in the day when I started like 20 years ago. He knows a ton of stuff. He's got this really super helpful thing called the everything you wanted to know about aspect ratios but were afraid to ask. It's very useful advice, especially when getting into getting more in depth into chainmail. Now he has this program called Irregular Grid Painter, also called IGP. There's a download right there. And what it does is it takes an image and converts the pixels into rings. So I'm going to crack IGP open. Da, da, da. Now, in here, he has some kind of loaded up images. Actually, let's do it. This is our app we're using. If we go to open, we can go up to the images file, IGP, images, and there's some things that are kind of preloaded in here. Here's Canadian flag, right? So, if we look at this image, Canadian flag, it's a very small image, right? It's 40 by 31 pixels. And if you look at our flag, 40 by 31 is 1240. That's just 40 times 31, 1240. So every pixel becomes a ring. So it's very important to choose your sizing very appropriately, or you could end up creating something that's way too big. For example, I've got one we're going to check out. It's 100 by 100. Quick math is 10,000, right? If you want to make it 200 by 200, it quadruples, right? 20 by 20, 200 by 200 becomes 40,000 rings, which is kind of gets really, really big, really, really fast. Okay, so this is IGP. You can make a new image. It does not work particularly well because there's no back or undo buttons, so you screw something up, you screw something up. It's hard to get your colors right as well. Primarily, I use it for opening things, right? So one of these. We're going to go into something that I've currently worked on to walk you through my process. We're going to go with this rebel symbol. So these are some images that I've looked into, that I've worked on. And we're going to open them without IGP first. We're going to open them up in a program called IR FanView. It's really, really good, super straightforward video imaging, video editing software. But it's free, it's open source, it's got everything you need. So I'm going to close out all these actually. And we're going to open up our Rebel symbol. And this is our Rebel base symbol. So this is our image we're going to use. I'm a big Star Wars fan. No surprises there. So this image is 586 by 579. It's gigantic. That's right. 586 by 57 is 33,000 rings. So you know what? We could open this in IGP and see what happens. So it's a different type of IGP. Open. We're gonna go find our Rebel inlay, Rebel symbol, Rebel base symbol. Oh, we ran out of memory. It's too big of a file. So this is one drawback, although it's not really too much of a problem because that is a gigantic inlay that's going to take a very long time. So we need to break this inlay down to something more manageable. And I usually just do it through here. So you can go to Image, Resize, Resample, and choose your image size, right? I find it's helpful to kind of have an idea of how big you want your inlay to be roughly before you start going. Because once again, these things get real big, real big, real fast, even if you cut it just in half. So we go half, 293 by 290, it's going to be 1/4 of that, right? Just divided by 4. 84,000 rings is still a lot. So we're going to set new size, 100. Numlock was on. And 99 automatically gets filled in because it keeps the same aspect ratio, which is super nice, right? Keeps the same size. If we just adjusted the width but kept the height the same, it would get really squished and kind of distorted. So we're going to choose that. This is our size of our image. Tiny image, right? It's not very big. These inlays get real big, real fast. So this is our image we're going to play with, right? And I like to save it as something. So we're going to save it as rebel base symbol, 100 by 99. I'm just going to save over this, but it's important to keep track of what you're doing, because if you're reducing by half and then reducing by half of that, how do you know where you're at? So just name your files appropriately and it will make your life a lot easier. So I saved it as that. Replace file, sure. Now we can go to IGP and we can open this image up, right? Open. So we've got our symbol. Pretty straightforward. Rebel symbol. There we go. Rebel base symbol. 100 by 99. Open. Okay, now we got our inlay. Let's check it out. Looks pretty good to me, right? Now we run into a problem though, because there's a lot of colors here. So in your right menu here, you can do what's called count colors. And each one of these 3-digit codes corresponds to a color. I'm not sure if you've ever looked in Paint before, but these things all have a spot on the grid where they're going. So this one, for example, is blue 160. This one has a bit of blue, a bit of green. This one has a bunch of red and some saturation stuff. So any point on the grid here is right here, same as here. So if we go look at black, for example, 000, white, 255 all the way, right? So every single one of these colors is slightly off white or slightly dark near black. 111, that's real close to just black. So there's hundreds of colors in here. It's 10 per line, and I'm not going to go through and count them, but it's pretty crazy. So what do? Well, for this one, now that we've got our size that we want it to be, we're going to have to decrease the color depth down to just 2 colors. Luckily, it's really easy to do in IR fan view. You just got your image and you go image, decrease color depth, 2 colors, black and white. Bam. You may have noticed it got a little grainy there. That's perfectly fine. We're going to save as, and we're going to save it as rebel base symbol, 10 by 99. Watch. Yes, I'm Canadian, hence the UN colors. All right, so something interesting is we actually have 2 versions of this. So let's just open them up just so we can see. We got our symbol, 2 colors. So we're going to open this one, and you can see very obviously that they are different images, right? Grainy, not so grainy. It's going to be fine. There's a certain level of graininess you will have to be okay with, because this is pixel art, right? Think like Mario 8-bit images, right? So got to keep your image small. So what we went over was we chose our image, we got it to an appropriate size, and we've reduced it to 2 colors for this one. Nice black and white, right? If you do not like your image and you're in IGP, for example, we're going to go find it. Imagine we didn't like this, right? If we choose black, which we can, and just click it, there's no undo, as I said earlier. So if you screw something up, you screw something up. You can't really undo it, right? Especially if it's got a different color other than this. So I choose to just open things up in Paint and just redo things pixel by pixel. If you have to, that's fine. Paint's really easy to play with. You just load your image in and change what pixel needs to be changed. Maybe you actually want this pixel and this pixel. Maybe you don't. Luckily, you can just undo them. It's okay, right? So this is where I find that it makes the most sense to edit your images, right? So now that you've got your image the way you want. I guess we could load this in to kind of prove, hey, this actually looks pretty good still. Put it up. Our two colors. Bam. Make it big. Still looks pretty solid, right? Now what do we do next? We know how many rings we are because we have right here. So it even divides it by color. We're going to need 4,884 white, or I'm going to choose bright aluminum for my white. And we got 5,016 black rings, right? So something really interesting. You can do, now that we've created our inlay, you can actually make it a couple different ways. One way is better than the rest, trust me. The first inlay I ever did, I printed this image off, and then I went and I just left to right like reading a book, and I ticked off a ring and ticked off a ring and ticked off a ring, and it was miserable. Took a long time. Save as text is super interesting. So we're gonna save as text. Yes, we're gonna redo it because I already have it. I have Notepad++, fantastic program. It allows you to do a lot more things than regular Notepad does. So this is our Rebel text. Hold up. We're gonna crack open our Rebel text right here. There we go. So we got our 255, 255, 255, 100. So this is our color, and this is how many rings. So we got to do 100 of this color. Now it does get annoying because you're like, well, what does that color mean? If you have several colors, what does that mean? So luckily, you can just hit Control F. It'll bring up your find. You can hit replace, and you can choose to do your 255. Highlight it, copy that, go back into here, and you can change this into 255s are going to be bright aluminum. If it's not there, you just type it in. Just a preset, I guess, that we're saved, so you can replace all. Bam, the bright. Next, you're going to go 000. If you forget what these colors are, you can go back to IGP and be like, what was 000? 000, black. 255, 255, 255, white. So our text file, we're going to save, we're going to do 000. Oh. Try that again. And we're going to change that to black. So all of a sudden, it's pretty straightforward, right? We go 100 bright, and then we go 49, 2, 49, onward. I do find it's very helpful to start a chain, like a 4 rows or so at the very top before you start making your inlay, because it's very hard to start it because it doesn't give you like a good idea of where to start. So I do 4 rows, then I'll do my first row here, because the first row is the very top. It's the first row is always the first row of complete rings, because you see you got a half ring at the very top, and then complete rings. You can check because it's pretty straightforward. 100, and then 49, 2, 49. There's our 2, right? When you get to your first colored ring, it's very important that you're using utilizing the ring in the right orientation. So, for example, this ring right here, we're going to see the left side of this ring because the way European Forum 1, which is this weave, sits, and this ring right here, we're going to see the right side of it. So if you are seeing the left side of the ring, make sure that this ring is facing this orientation. And European Forum 1 just varies in that one row will be facing one direction, the other row faces the other direction. So if this is the wrong orientation for the row you're on, add another row, or you can probably just remove 2 from this spot where you are. It's very important to keep count though. If I have 100 rings, I'll usually divvy them up into piles of 20, and then I'll put 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, done. And then the next one I'll do probably the same thing, 20, 40, 60, or 20, 40, then 9, and then do my 2 rings. For the 2, and then I'm going to finish it up. Now a little small detail is that you could just 49, 2, finish the row, 48, 4, finish the row, but if you miscount something, you're not going to know. But if you get to the end of putting your 48 rings in and you're 1 ring too long or 1 ring too short, maybe you mix something up. Now, it's not a problem at the very beginning, but if you are down here, or if it's a more complex inlay, you may be off by a ring, and that will save your butt. Okay, so I usually just print this off, Control P, and print it off, and then have it in front of me, throw it on a clipboard with a pencil, and just cross off as I go. Kind of like in cross stitch, you can highlight what you do as well, then you're good to go. I think that covers the basics. If you have any questions, please place them in the comments below. I'll put a link to IGP as well. Yep, any questions, let me know. I'll try to answer them. Bye-bye for now.